A folded note slid across the counter into my palm at 10:47 on a Wednesday morning in a small credit union in northern New Mexico, while I was depositing my paycheck the way I had every other Wednesday for the last 4 years. The teller did not look at me when she did it. She kept her face turned to her screen. Her name tag said Adelita. She was maybe 45, dark hair pulled back, wedding ring she had been wearing every Wednesday I had been coming in for the last 4 years. She was, in every way I had ever observed, completely unremarkable. The note was the size of a business card. I closed my hand around it. I did not look at her. She said, in the cheerful voice of a teller finishing a normal transaction, "All right, Ms. Whitford, your deposit will post by end of business. Have a good rest of your day." She slid my receipt across. The receipt looked normal. The note in my hand was not the receipt. I left the credit union. I walked out into the parking lot. I sat in my truck. I unfolded the note. The note said, in pencil, in handwriting that had been written very fast, "Do not use your debit card today. Do not use your credit card. Do not log into your online banking. Drive straight home. Stay inside. Do not answer your door for anyone you do not personally know. You have 24 hours. I am putting myself in a lot of trouble by doing this. Please do exactly what I am telling you. There is a number on the back of this card. Call it from your home phone, not your cell, after dark. Hit subscribe. Drop your city in the comments. Stay until the end. There is a thing I learned that day about who criminals choose, and the reason they choose, and the reason I am here to tell you, instead of being a name on a missing persons report, nobody would have filed for at least 3 weeks. Listen all the way through. I turned the card over. There was a phone number written on the back in the same pencil. Below the number, 3 words, "From your landline." I sat in the truck for a long time. The dust was blowing across the parking lot. The temperature gauge on my dashboard said 91. My truck's air conditioning had been broken for 2 months, and I had been telling myself I would get it fixed in the fall. I have thought about that day many times since. The thing I keep coming back to is how completely ordinary it had been until the moment that note was in my hand. I had woken up at 5:30, I had driven to work, I had fed 2 great horned owls, 3 red-tailed hawks, a Cooper's hawk with a broken wing that had been with us for 6 weeks, and a young golden eagle who had been brought in by a rancher the previous Friday after eating poisoned bait. I had cleaned enclosures. I had given oral medications to the eagle, who hated me. I had updated charts. I had eaten a sandwich at my desk at 11. I had driven into town to deposit my paycheck. The deposit was for $2,400. The deposit was the same amount every 2 weeks that it had been for the last 4 years. My name is Whitford Cabrera. I am 35 years old. I work as a wildlife rehabilitation specialist at a small raptor sanctuary 40 miles north of Albuquerque. I have been there for 9 years. I had moved to New Mexico from Vermont when I was 26 because I had been offered the job and because I had wanted to be somewhere with sky. I lived alone in a small adobe house on 3 acres of high desert. The house had been built in 1948 by a man whose name I did not know. I had bought it for $91,000 in cash 3 years earlier, with money I had saved by living in a single-room rental for the first 6 years of my career. I had a paid-off truck. I had a paid-off house. I had no debt. I had no children. I had no pets except for a barn cat named Margarita, who lived in my carport and would not let me pet her. My closest family was a brother in New Hampshire who I spoke to on Christmas. My mother was alive, but in a memory care facility outside Boston that she could no longer leave. I called the facility every Sunday, and a kind nurse named Doreen would hold the phone to my mother's ear and tell me, in a soft voice afterward, whether my mother had recognized my voice that week. Most weeks, she did not. I had two real friends in New Mexico, both of them co-workers at the sanctuary. I had not been on a date in 2 years and 3 months. I went to bed every night at 9:30. I was, by any measure a person could take of me from the outside, exactly the kind of person whose disappearance would not have been noticed by anybody important for at least 3 weeks. I drove home from the credit union. I did not stop anywhere. I did not get gas, even though I had been planning to. I locked my truck in the carport. I went inside. I locked the front door. I locked the back door. I checked the windows. I closed the blinds in the living room because the woman in the note had told me to stay inside, and I had decided, somewhere on the drive home, that I was going to do exactly what she said. I did not know why. I have thought about that too. The closest I have come to an answer is that the note had been written by a woman who had a wedding ring and a job at a credit union, and who had nothing to gain by writing it. The note was either a joke that no rational adult would write to a stranger, or it was real. I had decided, by the time I had pulled out of the parking lot, that it was real. I sat in my house for the rest of the afternoon. I did not check my email. I did not log into anything. I did not turn on the television. I read a book. I tried to read a book. I read the same paragraph of a book 7 times. The sun went down at 6:53. I waited until 7:30. I went to the small landline phone in the kitchen that I had kept hooked up because the cell signal at my house was unreliable. I dialed the number on the back of the card. The woman picked up on the second ring. She said, very quietly, "Ms. Cabrera?" "Yes." "Are you home?" "Yes." "Are you alone?" "Yes." "Listen to me. I have about 15 minutes. I'm going to talk fast. I'm going to tell you what I noticed. I'm going to tell you what to do tomorrow morning. I'm going to give you a name, an address, and a phone number. After this call, I am not going to have any more contact with you. I'm going to deny this call ever happened if anyone asks me. I have a husband and 2 kids, and I cannot lose this job. Do you understand?" "Yes." "About 6 months ago, your account at our credit union started receiving small deposits from sources you did not have on file. The deposits were under the federal reporting threshold, so they did not trigger any automatic flags. They came in batches of 3 to 5 at a time, every 2 to 3 weeks, from accounts I am now able to tell you are shell accounts associated with a financial crimes operation that the federal task force has been investigating in this region for the last 14 months. The deposits stayed in your account for an average of 6 to 9 days. Then small withdrawals would happen, also under the threshold, also to accounts I now know are part of the same network. The deposits and withdrawals net out to almost 0. Your balance has not changed in any way that you would have noticed. The structure of the activity is consistent with using your account as a layering account in a money laundering pipeline. Your account, Ms. Cabrera, has been laundering money for 6 months. You did not authorize it. You probably did not notice it. The people who set it up have been counting on you not noticing it. I sat down on the kitchen floor. I had not realized I was sitting down until I was already on the floor. "I have been watching it for 3 months," she said. "I noticed it because of a training I went to last September. I work for the credit union. I cannot legally tell you any of this. I am telling you because I have figured out who else has accounts being used the same way at our branch, and I have figured out the pattern of who they pick. Ms. Cabrera. The people at our branch whose accounts are being used in this pattern are all single women in their 30s or 40s with stable but small incomes, no joint accounts, no co-signers, no significant family in the area. They picked you because they did a profile and you fit it. The profile is, and I am sorry, the profile is people who would not be missed quickly if something happened to them. The other women on the list at our branch have similar profiles. There are 4 others. I have been working up to this conversation with all of you for the last 6 weeks. You are the third one I have been able to talk to. The first two have already left the area. They are safe. What is going to happen to me? There are two possibilities. Possibility 1. The federal task force completes its investigation in the next several weeks, and they freeze every account in the network at once. Your account will be frozen with the others. You will be questioned. You will eventually be cleared, but it will take months. And during those months, your assets will be inaccessible, and your name will be in a federal database as a person of interest in a money laundering investigation. That is the better outcome. Possibility 2. The criminals running the operation realize the task force is closing in. They drain every layering account in the network in a coordinated 48-hour window. They disappear. They leave behind a paper trail that points to you. The federal authorities arrive. They find drained accounts in your name with money laundering activity attached, and they arrest you. You spend the next 2 years and most of your savings trying to prove you did not know. You probably succeed. You also probably never recover financially. Some women in the previous version of this scheme, in another state, did not succeed. They are in a federal facility right now. I am not telling you this to scare you. I am telling you because the difference between possibility 1 and possibility 2 is about 72 hours. The signal that we are entering possibility 2 is that the activity pattern in your account changes in a specific way. I have been watching it. The pattern changed yesterday. I am almost certain we have entered the 72-hour window. You have, by my best estimate, 24 hours before they drain you. We need to get you in front of the task force tomorrow morning before they do. She gave me 3 things: a name, an address, a direct phone number for a federal investigator named Special Agent Marisol Tovar. The investigator was based out of an office in Albuquerque. The address was a federal building downtown. The phone number was a direct line that bypassed the main switchboard. She told me to drive there at 7:30 in the morning, to park in a lot 2 blocks away, to walk in, to give the receptionist the agent's name, to refuse to leave until the agent personally came to the lobby to get me. She told me to bring no electronics, to pay for parking with cash, to take the long way to the federal building, not the highway, to not stop anywhere on the drive. She told me to bring this card and to give it to the agent. She told me to tell the agent that her contact information was on the card, that she was authorizing the agent to confirm the call, and that she would deny everything if she was contacted any other way. She said, at the end of the call, "Miss Cabrera, I am sorry. I should have told you sooner. I have been trying to figure out how to do it without losing my job and without putting my family at risk. I figured out today, when you walked in, that there were no more ways. I am sorry. Please be safe tomorrow." She hung up. I sat on my kitchen floor for a long time. I want to skip ahead a little because the part I want to talk to you about is not the next morning, although the next morning is the part where my life shifted. The next morning, I drove to the federal building. I did everything Adelita had told me to do. I gave the agent the card. The agent left the lobby for 40 minutes. She came back. She sat down across from me in a small, windowless room. She told me in a calm voice that what I had been told was correct. She told me they had been waiting for the network to make a move. She told me that I had walked into their office at the right time. She told me that the next 4 months were going to be unusual. She told me that I would be all right. The next 4 months were unusual. The federal task force used my account, with my consent, in a controlled operation that I am not going to describe further than to say it produced arrests of 14 people across 3 states. My account was preserved. My name was not made public. The other 3 women at the credit union whose accounts were being used were also brought in over the following 2 weeks. All 4 of us were preserved in the operation. Adelita, the teller, was not made part of the federal record. Her name does not appear in any document I have seen. The task force protected her, at her request, by attributing the original tip to an anonymous source within a financial institution. She still works at the credit union. I still go in every other Wednesday. She and I have not spoken about that night, ever. She nods at me. I nod at her. She processes my deposit. She tells me to have a good day. I tell her I will. We have done this for 4 years now, since the operation closed. I do not know if either of us will ever speak about it. I do not know if we should. I want to talk about the part of this story that is the actual lesson, because it is the part I had no language for before it happened to me, and it is the part I am most worried that nobody is teaching anybody else. The criminals who chose me did not choose me at random. They chose me because I had a profile that made me invisible. They had a list. The list was specific. The list said, find women between 30 and 50, single, no children, no joint accounts, modest income, predictable schedule, no significant social media presence, no family within 100 miles, in small credit union markets. They had decided, by analyzing public data and credit union records they had access to through a corrupt intermediary, that women like me were the safest people to use, not because we were vulnerable in the way the news talks about vulnerability. We were not poor. We were not in obvious crisis. We were not being targeted because we had problems. We were being targeted because we did not have many people. They chose us because, if anything went wrong, the federal investigation would not be complicated by hysterical phone calls from anybody. There would be no spouse demanding answers. There would be no parent on the news. There would be no children whose lives had been disrupted. There would be one quiet woman with a quiet job, and the federal authorities could take their time, and the world would not pay much attention. The architecture of being chosen for invisibility is a thing I had never considered before. I had thought of myself my whole adult life as a person who had built a quiet life on purpose. I liked my quiet life. I had moved to New Mexico in part because I wanted a quiet life. I had not realized, before the night Adelita put a note in my hand, that the quiet life I had built was also a profile. The profile was visible to people who were looking for it. The profile said, "This person is safe to use. This person can disappear. This person will not have a search party." I am not telling you this to scare you. I am telling you because the world has been having a long conversation about who is safe and who is not. And the conversation has mostly been about visible kinds of vulnerability. Children, elderly people, women in obvious distress. The conversation almost never includes the kind of vulnerability I was before that day. The vulnerability of being a quietly capable adult who has built a small, good life that nobody else is paying close attention to. That kind of vulnerability has a name. Criminals know the name. The rest of us mostly do not. I have spent 4 years trying to think about what to do with that information. The closest I have come is 2 things. The first thing I have done is build, on purpose, a small network of people who would notice if I disappeared. Not in a panicked way, in a structural way. I have a coworker named Beatrice who I have a standing weekly lunch with. If I miss 2 in a row without explanation, she has agreed to call me, and to call my brother in New Hampshire if she cannot reach me. My brother has a neighbor named Frida, whose number he carries in his wallet. If anything happens to my brother before he can get to me, Frida has agreed to start the search. The arrangement is small. The arrangement is fragile. The arrangement is also more than I had 4 years ago. The second thing I have done is I have started paying attention to the women in my own community who fit the profile I fit. I do not know if any of them are being used the way I was. I have no way to know. I do not have access to anybody's banking records. What I do have is the ability to make sure they have at least one person who would notice if they were not at the grocery store on a Tuesday. I have a few of those women now. They are the women I see at the same coffee shop every morning. The women I nod at the post office. I have started, very slowly and very awkwardly, to learn their names. I have started to ask them when I see them how they are. I have started to mean it when I ask. The women have been, all of them, slightly surprised. Most of them have responded. A few of them have not. The ones who have responded have, several of them, started to nod at me at the post office now. We are not friends. We are something smaller and possibly more important. We are people who would notice. There is one thing I want to leave you with, because it is the only thing I have come out of those 4 months with that feels like it could matter to a stranger. The thing is this: there are people in your life right now, on the edges of your daily routine, who fit the profile I fit. Single women in their 30s and 40s, single men of any age, older people whose grown children have moved away. Anybody who lives alone, eats alone, goes to the same places at the same times by themselves. They are not an obvious crisis. They are not asking for anything. They are quietly competent adults who have built small, good lives. They are also, if certain people decide to choose them, the easiest people in your community to make disappear. The cost of nodding at them at the post office is nothing. The cost of learning their first name is nothing. The cost of asking them how they are and meaning it is nothing. The cost of being one more person in a network of small noticings who would notice if they were not at the coffee shop on a Tuesday is nothing. The cost of not doing it is, sometimes, that nobody starts looking until it is too late to find. I do not know if Adelita knew, when she slid that note across the counter, that she was teaching me a thing I would still be trying to live by 4 years later. I have not asked her. I am not going to ask her. The lesson she gave me belongs to her. The way I have been carrying it belongs to me. The way you carry it, if you carry any of it, is going to belong to you. We are all in different parts of the same network. The network only works if the people in it decide to be in it on purpose. I am one of them now. So, possibly, are you.